I just made myself coffee. Designing the core elements of a Groovebox is like designing an entire track. Everything has its own place. Everything has its own function. None of these elements are random. Some of the inspiration from this came from Trovarsi. Trovarsi is an artist who performs modular synthesizers, and she gave a demo at ADE last year. I was asking her, like, how do you get the sounds to come out of your jamming rig to sound so good and club ready? And her answer was like, well, they've been workshopped to be exactly that. So Trovarsi had sat down with a mixing and mastering engineer, had made sure that every sound that goes into the rig is already customized and balanced so that the final effect in the club is one that feels very mixed, almost on par with records that have been mixed and mastered in the studio. And so that made it clear to me that if you are designing a Groovebox for live use, you can't be like, oh yeah, but it's not mixed and mastered, that's why it sounds bad. It's like, well, in something like the analog rhythm, you have control over which sounds you put in, and you can shape those sounds to already sound very close to what a final record would sound like. So maybe you should do that. And that kind of gave rise to this thinking. Now we've come this far, maybe let's make a little rack together. Let's see how far we get, and I can show you some workflow ideas for the individual bits of the rack. Okay, let's explore some methods for doing things together, right? So imagine you start with a kick. You want to choose a kick sample. Personally, I might actually synthesize the kick, but let's choose a sample for today because I want to show you this method. You see this here, this zone thing on the sampler? This means that you can drag in a bunch of different samples here and then select one of them. This is a great idea so that you can browse many samples real quick and switch them out without having to go into the browser or anything. So imagine I go into this artist kicks folder, and imagine I take these Mario Ochoa ones and maybe also these OC Verdi ones. Hopla, just drag them all in here. All the samples are here. And then you just got to make sure that the selector, right now they're all selected because the blue bars are all over the place. So you want to right click this and do distribute ranges equally. And so now you can select various kicks. So let's start programming in a little pattern. So let's make a little MIDI clip. A 1 bar MIDI clip is a good amount. Like you could work with 2 bars, but 1 bar is a good amount. And let's just program in a simple kick pattern. I think I want to do like boom, 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 like this. Like that's fun. Because 4 on the 4 can get a bit fatiguing when you're sound designing, I find. Anyway, so now we can browse different kicks. Notice that the tail of all my kicks is being cut off by this release. Whoa, sick. I think I want something quite deep and mental. This is nice. It's got a sweet little reverb on it. That's cool. Now let's add in a clap. And we could do the same. We could make ourselves a little collection of claps that we like, drag them in, and then just drag around the selector. But today, I think I want to be a little bit cheeky and I want to use Random Metal as a plugin. Many of you might remember I did a video on this a few months ago, and since then, I've been working a lot more with the Beat Surfing crew. So this is not a sponsored video, but I wish them well, and you should all go buy their plugins because it's pretty sweet. In fact, let me do as many of the percussions with this plugin as possible. Here. Kind of wild. Now, one thing that you might want to avoid in this situation is sounds that change every single hit. You know, that kind of round robin type style. If every time that the sound hits, it's slightly different, well, when I export that sample into my drum rack, that's not what it's going to sound like. So let's just find a timbre that we like, and then let's maybe bounce that to audio and drag that back in. So let's find something. Here, let's go for something that's a good clap. Big fan of that already. I actually love this. Let's go for this. But then you're like, how do we reduce the amount of randomness? Well, I like being really precise. So I would solo this, and then I would record it here. Click, click. Perfect. And then I would drag that sample onto there, and that's going to replace this random metal with a sampler. And I can just choose one of the hits that I like, and it's always going to be the same hit. That works. Perfect. I can delete these samples. Nice. Now let's do the same with our closed hi-hats. Let's add in a simple upbeat hi-hat. Obviously not this sound. Here we can just go to hat. That sounds so good, yo. That's crisp. Crisp as heck. I love it. Let's keep it in. And now let's make the open hi-hat. Same process. So this is my closed hi-hat, and this would be my open hi-hat. Pretty good. For the purposes of this, that works. Now let's imagine we want to do a ride, right? Now let's not use random metal for that. I want to show you another technique. For a ride, let's take a 909 ride as a starting point. Classic ride sound. Here, let's put that in. Let me trigger it with the keyboard. You can see here I'm triggering this note, so I just have to go down an octave, down another octave, and then go up the keyboard until I hit the ride. There we go. So again, the release is something you want to consciously set. Could be long, could be short, but you just want to be intentional about that. And then in Ableton, you do this similar swap thing. So you can go and try out a different ride. And so if you use the Ableton sampler device, you can simply use this to swap to the next similar sample. Cool. Here, let's make sure we've got some notes. Let's go. Pretty cool, but let's switch. Oh, this one has some weird stereo stuff going on. Do I like that? I think I do. Notice how I'm switching the volume? Already you're doing a mix down in here, right? And so you need to consciously set the levels of your individual elements, and sometimes A/Bing with a reference track might be a good idea. Heck yeah. Now what I want next is a shaker. And for a shaker, I want to explore another random metal. Look at these beautiful rocks. So what makes a shaker a shaker? Well, for me, it's something that works every 16 note pulse. And it's a very short rhythmic cell. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 notes that keep getting repeated. And they're differentiated by their velocity. So you go low, mid, high, mid. In terms of velocity, so you got a soft one, a medium one, a strong one, and a medium one. You can mess with different levels of that or different types of grooves, but essentially you just want that to be repeated again and again and again. And it would give you something like... Now, I'm not vibing with this, but let's explore. The rhythm of it feels a bit off. So let's just listen to the shaker first. So there's velocity sensitivity. That's important to make sure that it's sufficiently pumping. This could work for me. Yeah, we might have to resample this one because I'm not super vibing with the timing of it. There might be a way of getting that better, but I'm not an expert. Ooh. There's something to this. There's something to this that I like. But again, I'm not a fan of the timing of it. So let's just take that into our own hands and just play a single note, a nice and strong note, and record that. Check! And here you see why the timing is feeling so weird, because the transient, if it would fall on the grid, would fall exactly here, and it's falling quite a bit later. And so that's kind of messing with the timings of everything, but there's a solution for everything, and we just drag this back in to our shaker. And then we can go back to our previous pattern, right? And we can start finding a place where it does fit well, like maybe here. We can still do a little fade in. Here, let me do a sampler so I can do like a soft fade in still. Now it's tight. Now it's tight. and then add in the kick. Okay, why not? Why not? Why not? You know, with shakers, what's sometimes fun is to do like a little, sometimes a little roll like that, a little 30-second note in between. Don't overdo it though, because it gets a bit distracting. Let's leave that for another time. This shaker has an awful lot of low frequencies. It's not very bright at all. And so I'd love to introduce you to my discovery of the week. The discovery of the week for me is this Slick EQ, a free EQ that's very simply multiband like this. But what it allows me to do is kind of tilt sounds in a very sort of intuitive way. So for example, it's got a low shelf, a high shelf, and then a mid frequency, right? And so what I want is I want to bring up the ultra highs, make it fresher. I think everything below 1,000 I want to drastically bring down. And then in the mids, sometimes there's like a fatiguing point around between, let's say, 3 and 5 kilohertz. It's often quite fatiguing. So if I bring that down, maybe it's a little bit less fatiguing. And then we move away the American saturation to the British saturation, because honestly, that American saturation is just embarrassing. Sorry, guys. Get your politics in order. Your video has been censored for critiquing the regime. Without the EQ, kind of low and dusty in a way. With the EQ, kind of high and sparkly. Just placing things emotionally, you know? It's cool. So we got low energy. Yeah, I like it. I like it. And you know, now that we've put it into a sampler, we can also reduce the tail if we want. We can like bring down the sustain. Make it a bit more slicey. I do like that a lot. I do like that a lot. Thank you, Beat Surfing, for these wonderful metallic timbres, because we all get a bit sick of using 909 samples every now and then, don't we? What are we going to do for a low element? Oh my God, I'm going to show you all the secrets today. Today we're going to do, for a low percussion, what I want to do is a little rumble without reverb. What? How does he make a rumble without a reverb? Nobody knows. Well, I'm about to tell you. What you would do is you'll take a kick 2, and the kick 2, it's a drum synthesizer, right? Let's program in these notes. This is like the pattern that would be like boom, da boom, da boom, da boom, da. And let me make the kick 4 on the floor so that it's a bit easier to digest. Okay, in this kick 2, what we want to do, right? First of all, we want to mute all of these clicks. We don't care about clicks. We only care about the sub. And the sub is this sweepy thing that we see here. It shows us the frequencies, and you can tell that like it's got a transient on it. It goes boonk at the start by virtue of this sweep, right? Maybe let's soften that. Let's darken that and soften that so that we only get this like throbbing. Yeah, I'm using the word throbbing on the channel. Good job, Oscar. And so now this sine wave, this simple sine wave that descends, that's a classic way to make a kind of a 808 style kick drum. What we're going to do instead is we're going to choose something that has some harmonics, because sine waves, as we all know, have no harmonics. But let's choose, for example, a tom. And if we put 0 harmonics, it's still going to sound the same. But let's add in those harmonics. What the hell? Here, let's do again. What the hell? So you're hearing a phenomenon, and to put words to that phenomenon, what you're hearing is the evolution from a tonal sub-bass to an atonal sub-bass. So the tonal sub-bass has a very definitive pitch, and the atonal sub-bass has a much blurrier pitch, much like when you put reverb on a kick. But this is just a beautiful, rumbly, techno-adjacent sound that, yeah, it's got just deep energy. Oh, let's make it like, oh yeah, a little bit down there. That's awesome. And how does it bounce against the kick? Whoa. So it's cool at first glance. You might be like, this is cool, but I'm here to tell you it's not cool. You might be seduced by the rhythm. It's kind of cool. But what we've done is we've added in another element that's way louder than the kick. And now the kick loses its punch. In techno, in a lot of techno, you do kind of want that kick to be sort of the anchoring thing of the groove. You want to make sure that the kick still sounds big, because everything is relative in music production, right? So if you have something big, don't make something even bigger, because then that big thing won't sound big no more. It'll sound kind of meh. So let's just bring down the volume. All the way down. There we go. At -10, it's adding something in the low end, but it's not taking away from the kick. It's still, what we're hearing is still about the kick, you know? If you would go back up to 0 decibels, the kick feels like it's almost not there. It's all about the tom. So -10 decibels. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Dark, crisp, clean, spacious, fresh, groovy. Love, big love. Might want some reverb on that hi-hats, don't know. Also good. That open hi-hats might workshop it a bit. I dig the energy of that. I dig all of this. I dig it all. I think the open hi-hat is the only one that's slightly weaker for me. I'm slightly less interested in it. I don't know exactly what it is about it. I would take more time to sound design it if I wasn't worried about boring you, my precious viewer. Here, let's add in something else to the lows. Let's use our multi-sample technique again. So I've made a nice folder of 909 toms. Let's drag all of those in, do the distribute ranges equally trick, plan in at least a note for that other tom, put it on a syncopated note. Remember, pulse and syncopation is how you articulate the groove. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the pulse, and then you want some weak 16th notes to be accented. So for example, I like the kind of bloated feeling of that. Yeah, it's kind of... Let's bring down the volume. Sure, why not? Let's chill things out a bit in the highs. Can get a bit fatiguing. Here, let's do another multi-sample trick with a snare. And I could be wrong, but I think the beat surfing guys have a snare plugin as well. There it is, 7 deadly snares. I haven't even used it. Here, let's go. Okay, here, let's solo it and let's play. Oh, damn. That is snappy as heck. Let's see what this sounds like. It's a punch in the ear if I ever had one. Loud. Let's slap a little utility behind it. Well, it's a nice sound. It's a cool sound. Here, let's look at some of this. Oh, wow. Okay, so there's all these different snare engines. Yeah. Okay. Look at all of these. I love the way that it moves. Oh, that's so cool. And then in the middle, there's this big randomize button. That's so cool. Look at these. Okay, so these are probably the 7 snare engines. Yeah, I know that the beat surfing guys love having several different synthesis engines, and so you just need to figure out what their characteristics are. Oh no, look at this down here. Oh my god, they are associated with a deadly sin. So there is sloth, gluttony, wrath, lust, envy, greed, and pride. Which one are we feeling like today, my friends? Choose your own sins. I'm feeling pretty lazy today, so let's go for sloth. Cool. Random. Nice. These are all very usable. Cool. You know, I'm going to solo this. Oh, love it. Yeah, I just want it short and snappy. I think I want a little bit of sound design over top of this, you know? This is a great bass sound. I mean, great bassist sound, you know? And then on top of that, I want... Here, let's stick in an echo boy. Let's do something rhythmic. A little bit of chorus. And then my favorite plugin of the last week, the Slicky Q. Let's think about frequencies. What do we think about these frequencies? Do I want it fresher, darker? And is there a pressure point that I want to remove? No. I think the chorus really softened up the pressure point. What I love about this plugin is that it automatically volume compensates. So you're really just tilting the quality of the sound. You're not getting distracted by the fact that it sounds louder. Too fresh. Too fresh. In fact, the darkness is good. Let's take a more classic 909 snare on the other lead section. I think I like something snappy like that, but maybe I want to put my own decay on there. Yeah, that's cool. And so on lead 1 and 2, we've got some clear mid-range percussion, but on lead 3, maybe let's put like a kind of a ravey sample. Now, it's up to us to design the sound so that it fits. Its rhythm was a bit messing with me. Yeah, that's dope. And when you start to get a bit bored of your own stuff, you can just put in some mid-range elements. And if you switch from your composition to a reference track and keep making mix change decisions and basically just designing it however you would want, you get close to something that's almost a done track with just a single Groovebox. I'm not going to further sound design this now anymore. I've done enough. I think you get the point. And I hope that this Groovebox concept can simplify a world where, music production can sometimes get really overwhelming with the amount of options that you have. If you can simplify it down to a Groovebox and design that Groovebox well, you are well on your way to having a full-ass track. If you like learning from me, go follow one of my courses. And until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye.